Hi everybody, what's up? I am Michelle Espinosa, and you may know me as Lady Stars and Fire. This is the weekly healing messages for September 4th through the 11th. I'm still shocked that we've already gotten to September. I'm like, this year is just so fast flying by. Anyway, again, this is the weekly healing messages for September 4th through the 11th. Now, there's a lot going on in astrology this week. Some changes are going on, but I'm going to explain a little bit of them, go back into what Spirit has given us, tell us what the runes are, but I'm not really going to go over them because I have a lot of information that Spirit gave me, so I'm not going to go into detail about the runes because I'm going into a lot about what Spirit gave me, and then I'll go into astrology as usual. But for this week, on the 5th, which is Tuesday, Mars is moving into Virgo. But the big thing that's happening on Tuesday, which is on the 5th as well, is Mercury is going direct in Leo. Hallelujah. I'm so glad that Mercury is finally going direct. This one's been a rough one for me. But on the 6th, we have a full moon in Pisces. And then on Saturday, which is the 9th, Mercury is then moving, because it's now direct, going to be moving into Virgo. So we have a lot of stuff going on. But before I get into the astrology, like I said, I wanted to give you the information that Spirit gave me. And I find it very uplifting. I hope you find it uplifting of what they're giving me. And I hope that you can understand, because some of this might be a little bit more complicated than some of you might be ready to be at, so to speak, from what I'm pulling back from the shamanic journey and what I'm understanding from Spirit directly. So I'm going to try to make it sound so most of you can understand. And those who definitely get it, you'll know where I'm going with it. But what I want to say first off is love is the best, the very best thing that we do as humans. I mean, it really is. Love is the best thing that we do as humans. I mean, like a parent when they're looking at their child for the very first time and everything changes. Just when love really swoops in and really shows us what love really is. Because all too often we think we understand love, but we only have glimpses of what it really means. But when we do it right, it's the best thing that we ever do. Now, on the flip side of that, I'm not going to deny some of the worst things were done with the best intentions, but that did not mean that it was done because of love. That also means that sometimes those things were done out of fear or out of ego or out of worry. And like I said, sometimes we get it right. You know, just like the first time a parent is holding their child and they're in awe. And when we're kind to one another and we're selfless to one another and we're showing that we're full of willingness. And we're sacrificing that selfishness for selflessness. And we get it right. It's the best thing that we do. And that brings me back to the idea that it helps us understand that divine level that is within each one of us, even though we don't always find it easily. And when we get into that, we start to get into the synchronicity of things. Sometimes people would consider it as a prayer, and like your prayers will come true. Some people would be like they're in sync with the universe, the source, God, the creator, whatever it is you want to see it as. And it's funny how things just find a way to fall into place in ways that you never thought possibly that it could. And it became better than ever you thought it could. And a lot of times that has to do with us not trying to do God's job, or the source's job, or the universe's job. However it is you want to see it. There's a difference. We have our rituals that, we do, like with the full moon, and we release, and then the new moon, and we start new beginnings, new goals, along that line, and we follow our cycles. And that is very good. I mean, we're releasing, we're letting go of what no longer serves us. But sometimes that's also seen as you prayed to let something go, or to leave something behind. And sometimes we have to really work at leaving things behind. And so we start to see synchronicity in that sense. And we start to go, it's just so funny how sometimes when we just zen ourselves out. We just relax ourselves. We just release and stop trying to figure it all out, because we've got to take care of this bill, we've got to take care of this problem, we got to solve this issue, all before we can move forward. And that's actually what's keeping us from receiving the guidance that is being given to you, whether it's through synchronicity, source, God, however it is you want to see it. And it's funny how when you just stop trying to do the job of the source, of the universe, and you start to get in sync, and you start to realize these things will come easily, more easily for you, and when you start to see the signs, and they're shown to you. And the reason I went into all of that is because this week is going to have a lot to do with how conscious are you? What is your collective consciousness? Like I've been talking about, we have cycles that we go through. And you have, your cycles within energy itself. You have your cycles within quantum waves. You have your cycles within, like waves, when like when you throw a stone into the water and the ripple that it makes. Vibrations, dimensions. What collective consciousness are you in? What frequency are you in? How conscious are you? And how conscious are you to the chain reactions that come from your consciousness or lack of consciousness? Because this week I am being shown, sorry, my curtains are blowing open to the sanctuary door. I am being shown, literally, Spirit just puts a hand in front of my face and just shows me the hand itself. And the hand speaks to us in different levels, but basically of spiritual power, spiritual authority, spiritual rulership. And in some form, it might be seen also as the hand of God, depending on what your religion is and how you choose to see it. But then, this is where it might be getting into a little bit of where it might be a little harder for some people to understand. Because I am being given E equals MC 2, which is E equals MC squared. Let me break this down. I'm not going to go into explaining the mathematics of this. I'm just going to keep it plain and simple and see if you can follow. Because what I'm getting from them is simple understanding. This around us, this isn't empty. Okay? This is energy. And just like, some monks, I think it's some of the Buddhist monks and stuff, they believe at some of their temples and stuff, that they walk by and they spin specific chimes, because the chimes help ring away negative energy and help make sure the frequencies are positive and good there. This is not empty. This is energy. And depending on what you are spilling out into energy is what is going to be manifesting and working with you and working around you, and what you're keeping in your energy. Now, we always understand that. We seem to comprehend this idea. But what they're explaining to me is E equals MC squared is energy. Energy itself equals mass times the speed of light. Energy equals mass times the speed of light. Now, take that idea of what it is you can understand of that and add that into your thinking process of manifestation. Speed of light. Energy equals mass. Energy equals mass times the mass speed of light. This is not empty. And this also helps bring on that synchronicity, is what I'm being reminded of. I'm also being told, because I'm also being shown MC by itself, and it automatically took me to astrology. And MC in astrology is your midhaven. So if you know your own astrology, you may want to go back to your birth chart and check out where your midhaven is. The line itself should be speaking to you about what it is you should be overcoming within this life, where it is that you're moving towards, what your goals are, your destiny, so to speak, within this life. And you will definitely find it between your 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th, and 12th house. They're saying stay within that midhaven, that upper part. And that's also your inner and your outer worlds coming together, basically. But they're telling me that this has to do with energy, with the manifestation, with the synchronicity, with understanding, like I said, energy equals mass times the speed of light. It happens so much faster than you think. I was explaining to my girlfriend just the other night, because we always try to practice what we preach, and we are always trying to be positive people and positive thinking and optimistic. But sometimes, let's face it, shit don't go our way, and you get that curveball that's very uncomfortable. And in my girlfriend's case, she was getting down in the dumps about it. And it just seemed like one thing after another was just coming from the negative towards her after she got in the dumps. And I had to remind her, because she always reminds me of this. I had to remind her, honey, you are always reminding me that I am more powerful than I think I am. The energy I carry is more powerful than what I think it is. And then I need to be more aware of that. And I says, honey, it's the same thing for you. I says, except for in your case right now, you're down in your dumps about some stuff. And your power is working now against you. See where I'm trying to go with this? You have to be aware of your consciousness and what it is, the synchronicity you're bringing in, whether it's positive or negative, whether it is where you're wanting to go. Now, the next thing is I am given Delt. And Delt is another one of the Hebrew letters. Sorry, I have a bug. Delt is another one of the Hebrew letters that I'm given for this week. And I've been seeing it all week. And I just couldn't figure out where it was going, because I understood Delt, but it took me a little while to figure out where it was going. Because, like I said, I see things in Hebrew, I see things in different symbols that Spirit shows me, but Hebrew, I try to stick with the Torah information when I come out with the weekly healing messages. And the Delt speaks to us, for one, it speaks to us of the vibration of number 4. Okay? It also speaks to us of the door, the doorway. But it also speaks to us of the poor man, lifting up and elevating. Now, let me break down what they mean by the poor man breaking down, poor man lifting up and starting to elevate. Consciously, soulfully. The question in this is like your acts of kindness. That really becomes a question in your conscious ego. And the question is your acts of kindness because it's the right thing to do, because it's the good thing to do, because it's the loving thing to do, or are you doing it for judgment, for good deeds, for merit? Because if you're doing it for judgment, good deeds, and merit, you're wasting your time. because the synchronicity isn't going to work in that same positive way, because technically you're doing it for an egotistical reason, is what I'm getting at. And you're not learning the soulful lesson because you're doing the right thing for the wrong reason. And so the question is, in such things of kindness and expressing it and sharing it with other people, are you doing it for the right reasons? And are you being conscious with yourself and your ego as to the truth behind that? It speaks to us of possessing nothing, owning nothing, the poor man, but finding that the true only power that is needed is the choice of your own free will. And that is the trickery. The free will is you have the choice to do kindness, the good things, because of your heart, because it's the right thing to do. Or because you're looking for merit, for deed, for good deeds, or for judgment of others. And this is why I said, possessing nothing. To find that the only true power was the choice to do free will for the right reasons. And that brings us into the understanding of the consciousness of the ego. And starting to rise up above that. That would be the elevation of the poor man rising. The poor man lifting up, elevating. But see, for me, it took me a while to put the two of them together. And then I realized, oh my God, it's the same thing for me. Because, see, I wasn't raised Christian. I was raised to believe in Jesus. Yes, and I still do. Jesus is one of my teachers on the other side when I do my shamanic journeys. However, I still look into other things. I believe in Jesus. I believe in everything that Jesus has to teach me. I don't necessarily believe always in Catholic religion, however. And so I was raised listening to, Christmas music and everything else. And all week I've been hearing in my head The Little Drummer Boy. And that song always brought me to tears. I always loved it soulfully. It got into my empath. It got into my... that's exactly what it was. For me, it wasn't the song was about, the poor boy having nothing to give, and didn't know if he was good enough or anything along that line and going to see the king. It was about the fact of, this is what I have to give you, and that's me. That is just awing to me. Everybody wants to be able to stand in front of somebody and ask them, can you still love me? Even for all my flaws. That's what The Little Drummer Boy does to me. The song, when he's proud and humbled enough to be able to sacrifice, the worry on if it's good enough, and just, I hope that it's good enough and I'll play for you. And the smile back just was like the awing of saying, that's all that you really had to do in the first place, because that's all I wanted. And that's what that song means to me. And that's why I feel like when I hear Dealt, I have to go straight to The Little Drummer Boy. But it also reminds us, Dealt, the Hebrew letter also reminds us that it is the moon. It speaks to us as the moon is the symbol for our soul. And it speaks to us directly at the same time of that very elevation of finding the divine aid with NE equals MC squared. Energy equals mass times light and speed. I hope that made sense for you. Now, for the runes this week, like I said, I'm not really going to go over them because I've got a lot to talk about. We have Jebo. We are reminded of Jebo for the week, period. Jebo is a reminder that this is what you need to understand before you go into the healing messages for the week. And Jebo reminds us that it's a gift. Life itself is a gift. And it speaks to us of the gift itself and the gifting price. Giving and receiving. And then we speak of alges. Alges is protective, but it also speaks to us of ourselves being the channel to the spirit world. And then we are given Hagulas. Hagulas is hailstorm and crisis. It is basically speaking to us of coming out of the crisis, working our way through the crisis, and reshaping and moving into the future, but from learning from what was wrong within the crisis. And then we move into Induus for the last rune for the week. And Induus, the way I always speak of Induus, reminds us of our four: our emotional, our mental, our spiritual, and our physical. Because if your four are out of balance, then your one, wholeness, is out of balance. So it's a time of going inward and figuring some things out so that we can move forward. And let me remind you also, as I go into astrology this week, because as I go into astrology this week, the full moon is on the 6th in Pisces. That's an emotional place. And we're being told that we're going to be dealing with Delt, which is the poor man rising. So it's emotional. It's going to be emotional there. And you're going to want to see some good things where there may not be necessarily good things. And you may have to face some of those facts. Because Pisces wants to believe that everything is better than it really sometimes is. It just is hopeful. And it wants to believe as we come into the new starts. Because technically it's considered the universal 12th house. But Pisces has the hope and the dream world and the magic all attached to want to make it so good. But because sometimes we want so much to make it so good, we're not seeing the truth. And I'm saying that because it's a full moon on the 6th, which is Wednesday in Pisces. Remember, full moons are about release and let go. If you're wanting to start new situations, you may want to be waiting until we go into the new moon before we actually start putting them into effort. Okay, now, like I said, Mercury is going direct on the 5th in Leo, where it will remain there for the first few days. And then, it will move on the 9th. But on the 5th also, which is Tuesday, Mars is moving into Virgo. Now, this is the big thing for this week. Sorry, I was looking at something, got a little confused. Oh, I got a little buggy that flipped over. Stop flipping over, little dude. There we go. Anyway, we have we have like a super powered charged up trine going on, like a super charged up grand trine going this week. Now, I've been speaking about this trine for months, and I'm going to be speaking about it for months, because it technically, pieces of it are remaining, basically, and are moving and shifting about, but altogether, it kind of is going to still be there until, I believe, January. However, this week, it's like supercharged up, lighten up, and be like, hey, this is the week of finding this stuff out. And the reason I say that is because technically you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 planets all within this trine. Shifting a little bit throughout the week, but all week it's just major. Pay attention to me, basically. And it's the trine that I've been talking about, but all energies are hitting it this week. You've got Aries, which has Uranus in retrograde. And that is your universal first house. That's the beginning. Basically, it's the alpha. It's the start. It's the new beginnings. It's also our self and our ego. And Uranus is there speaking to us about our independence, our individuality, and our uniqueness, our freedom, and our creative energies, basically. And it's in retrograde. This is the last time it's going to teach its lesson in retrograde in Aries, because it won't be back for like another 75 years after this is over, because it'll be moving into Taurus. So this time around, it's really hitting us at, you know, in our heart, in our home, in our goals of everything that really for ourselves to be happy needs to change. And it is speaking to Lilith and Saturn, which are in Sagittarius. All of these are fire elements too. I mean, Saturn is all about your rules and your boundaries, and it just went direct. So it is all about, let me see what lessons I learned when I was in retrograde, and now I'm going to start putting them into effort and trying them out now outwardly. So it's taking the bold chances of going, well, let me step in this direction and see. However, Lilith is right there on top of Saturn. And Lilith can fuel this in the best way or the worst. Lilith can fuel it in the way of, nobody can tell me what to do, and that's that, because we're talking about Lilith. And that can be in a good way of digging your feet in and taking a chance and going out and starting the new, because I'm down with this and we're changing. Or if Lilith's energy is digging her feet in for egotistical reasons, is actually not helping you, then this might be a little bit more something you need to learn. But you've got Uranus energy, Lilith energy, Saturn energy, all in fire energies, speaking directly to Leo and into, well, it's Leo. It's speaking to Leo, which is the North Node, which is Mercury, which will be going direct this week. However, don't forget, even though it's shifting, it still picks up those shadow energies for a few days. Usually for approximately a week. So it might still be picking up some of that darker energy and tossing it your way, so that you're finding out those last little bits until Mercury goes retrograde again. You've got Mercury, the North Node, Venus, and Mars, all in Leo. I mean, really? Could you make the lion roar any louder? It's the Lion's Gate. Really. I mean, even though what everybody's been talking about is the Lion's Gate is over, I mean, this is the lion's roar. You've got the communication going from inward to outward, as well as the shadow there. You've got the North Node trying to talk to you about your creativity, talking about your service, as well as to yourself, your enjoyment of life, as well as Venus speaking to you about what you're sensitive about, and how to either bring the good sensitivity to you, like charming your way into the situation, or how to stay the hell away from it because that shit hurt because you got burned before. So Venus is speaking to these very energies, and on top of it, there's Mars. Mars is another fire energy, on top of everything else, which is aggressive, action, passion. I mean, it's your SWAT team, it's your defense. But like I said, it's aggressive and it's passionate as well. So, I mean, this energy is just fueling this week like nobody's business. And that takes place in Aries, your first universal house, which is self. Then Lilith and Saturn is taking place in the ninth house, which is Sagittarius universally, which is our spirit itself. Speaking about our spirit, our rules, our boundaries, and what we will and will not do. Period. And that speaks also of our religious beliefs, as well as our philosophy and stuff along that line. And then it's coming back to the fifth house, which is where your creativity is. Period. Your creativity, as well as your, you know, your childhood creativity, as well as just the ability to create, period. Because like I said, we're also dealing with the number 4, because the 4 also deals with the Delt, which also brings us all the way back to universal laws, synchronicity, and the ability to create. So what is your consciousness telling you this week as you hear yourself talking to yourself and outwardly? Because you're creating, whether you mean to or not. Now, we also have the moon is going to be shifting through all of that energy this week, period. The moon is making its way through, and it's going to be shifting into that energy during the week itself, because I'm just being told, you know, the moon, you might as well just consider it to be part of it, even though it's not. I'm being told, consider it to be part of it. So your soulful moon energy, like I said, also dealt with Delt, is going to be in on that energy. Now on the 10th, which is Sunday at the end of the week, you're going to have Pallas, which is in Taurus, speaking to Vista, and the Sun, which is in Virgo. And that's your self-esteem, because it's your second house, Taurus, your universal second house, as well as your own small possessions, so to speak. And it is also speaking to you of what your service is, your diet is, your health is. And Pallas is Athena. So this energy is going to be coming in this week, and near the end of the week. Athena is, you know, she's the warrior goddess of strategy, basically. And she's going to be speaking to your fire and your sun, your core itself, of what it is that you need to know about creating yourself the way you want to be and accomplishing that. That's why I said you might want to wait until the new moon if you're changing things. Allow Pallas to walk you through that first. But we have so much positivity this week, because we've got sextiles all over. And usually I tell you with sextiles, that means just don't get lazy, because it could stop you from moving forward. But I feel that there's just so much energy here, because Leo and the North Node and Venus are both speaking to Jupiter, which is in Libra. And that's going to be speaking to your relationships in general, basically, and balancing them. And then also is coming back to speak with, it keeps on moving to speak with Lilith and Saturn in Sagittarius. So you're talking about your touchy-feely of what you truly want from the lion in the creative part of your life, within those relationships and within the rules and boundaries of them, basically. And these can be very positive actions, as long as you actually, get up and move forward instead of be lazy about it. Then you won't miss any things that are meant to happen. You also have Pluto, which is in Capricorn, which is talking about our careers and our social life, basically, is speaking to Neptune and Pisces, which is your secrets and your unknown. Right there is where your new moon is going to be taking place. Your full moon is going to be taking place too. It's your unconscious coming into conscious. But we've been talking about that all day with Del. Now, the challenges this week is you have 2 T-squares. 2 T-squares that could be bringing up a positive energy if you could see through their harshness. Because they're challenges, because there's nothing easy about it. They're not comfortable. But they're meant as a challenge to help you move forward. Uranus in Aries is speaking directly to Jupiter. So your independence, your individuality, your uniqueness, your freedom, your desire to create and invent is speaking to Jupiter, which is speaking about relationships and growth and knowledge. And then that is speaking to Pluto, which is death, decay, and destruction, for change, for rebirth, renewal, and regeneration. So this is going to be coming in that touchy-feely way, not comfortable, because it's a challenge. So, like I said, Uranus, Jupiter, Pluto, challenge. Then you've also got Sun and Virgo, which are going to be speaking to Jupiter as well as Lilith and Saturn. Jupiter is bringing in a lot of complications this week for your independence, for your individuality, for your uniqueness, for your freedom, for your creative, inventive, personal self. And it's not that it's trying to cock block you, but what it is doing is bringing in that harder position for you to really, if you truly want to move forward, you need to see these things within these characteristics of you so that you could correct them and then move forward. And that's what this is about, because it's speaking to Saturn and Lilith of what you will and will not do within your rules and your boundaries, and what will you even try, basically. And like I said, that's an independent healing, is what I'm being told. And then it's also all got its thing going on, speaking to Chiron and Pisces, which also is going to be picking up a little bit of Neptune. So that's going to be digging up some past as well, because Chiron is the wounded healer, and the only way the wounded healer can heal is to deal with wounds. I mean, he gives you the keys you need if you're willing to listen, but you have to be willing to let him deal with the wounds. Neptune, though, on the opposite side, you want to make sure that you're not going back in and recreating from the wounds in a negative way. You only want to learn the lesson and release it, so that you can then have learned the lesson and move on without regret, without anger and frustration that's going to make you rebirth rot, basically, and start a cycle all over again for the wrong reasons. Now we also have Sun in Virgo is also speaking to Pluto. I mean, not Pluto, is also speaking to Neptune. So you want to make sure you're creating honestly. You want to make sure Neptune is bringing that magic in from that unconscious energy, because it is in Pisces, and it is bringing in, you know, truthful belief. Not belief because you want so desperately to believe, but it's not true. You got to evaluate yourself first, and then evaluate the situations. I love you. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will see you next week.